Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's virtual webinar on Innovating to Include, Expanding Financial Inclusion through Agent Network Development. I am Isha Cruz from the Innovations for Poverty Action Philippines, and I will be your host for this afternoon's event. So IPA Philippines, together with the Institute of Statistical, Social, and Economic Research and the Retail Finance Distribution, is pleased to have you all here today as we aim to raise awareness on agent network development and talk about how research can help us determine what works to improve the quality and expand the reach of agent network operations across the country. So over the years, the Philippines has made significant progress in improving financial inclusion. However, we do acknowledge that there are still gaps that we can address in order to make sure that we're able to provide quality financial services at the last mile. And today, we will learn more about one of these strategies to bridge that gap, which is agency banking. So with the extensive agent network ecosystem in the Philippines, there are opportunities to work together in generating more evidence on effective approaches to enhance agent network development and narrow down the financial inclusion gap. And so today, we're really looking forward to hearing from our speakers and how we can work together and build partnerships to improve agent banking operations. So once again, thank you so much for everyone who joined us here. We know we have a diverse set of participants from the academe, government, service providers, from banks, MNOs, MFIs, and NGOs. So yeah, we're really looking forward to an engaging afternoon. To formally open our event and to shed more light on today's topic, please join me in welcoming Yuna Liang, our Senior Research Manager at Innovations for Poverty Action Philippines, for the welcome.
Good afternoon or good morning. On behalf of IPA, I would like to thank you all for making time today, and a special thank you to our keynote speaker and panelists. The reason why we gathered today is because we recognize the important role of agent networks in promoting financial inclusion in the Philippines. We hope to take this opportunity to facilitate discussions on the key issues and evidence gap in the Philippines related to agent network development. And more importantly, we want to provide a platform for policymakers, financial service providers, and researchers, so all of you, to cultivate partnerships in generating more evidence around innovative solutions to expand the reach and improve the quality and efficiency of agent network operations. Now, before we kickstart these exciting discussions, please allow me a few minutes to introduce IPA to our new friends. So IPA, or Innovations for Poverty Action, is an international research and policy not-for-profit organization. Our mission is more evidence, less poverty, and we strive to achieve this by three main streams of work. First of all, our research arm co-creates rigorous research with our partners to generate more evidence around the effectiveness of programs and policies that aim to alleviate poverty and to address other development issues such as financial inclusion. And our policy arm engage policymakers and other stakeholders to make sure that evidence is really delivered to those who need the evidence and will be used. For example, we support partners to adapt interventions that have been proven effective in other contexts to our own context, or to scale up programs that have been proven effective in smaller pilots. Lastly, our YFIT Evidence Unit provide advisory and training services to help organizations become smarter users of data and evidence by establishing and implementing fit-for-purpose monitoring, evaluation, and learning systems. IPA works with 4 types of stakeholders, including governments and service providers who are typically the end users of evidence as we produce evidence around the effectiveness of their programs and policies. We also work with academics to make sure that our research has the scientific rigor to produce credible results. And our work is typically funded by international funders. And we are glad to see representatives from all 4 types of partners that we have been working with today in this event. IPA, in the past 20 years since we are founded, have been conducting more than 900 studies across the world. And we have long-term presence in 20 countries around the world, as illustrated in this map. And IPA Philippines is one of our oldest offices. Since 2002, our research footprint has covered more than 83% of all provinces in the country, and financial inclusion and consumer protection are our top priority topics in the country. Over these years, we have created a large portfolio of research projects together with our governmental and non-governmental partners in financial inclusion, as you can see on this list of selected projects on the right-hand side. But when it comes to Asian banking, IPA globally has a lot of ongoing and completed work related to Asian networks. For example, in Kenya, we have an impact evaluation measuring the long-term impact of mobile money Asian network expansion. And that was one of the very first rigorous evidence linking significant effects in poverty alleviation and household financial resilience to the access to mobile money and Asian networks. We also investigate innovations that aim to address constraints faced by agents. For example, we have impact evaluation looking at interventions that aim to improve agents' liquidity and financial sustainability. And our consumer protection initiatives has a lot of ongoing work in multiple countries, trying to measure and understand the implication of agent quality, such as their reliability, the fees that they are charging, to understand consumer protection risks that come with the speedy expansion of agent network, and to test innovations and interventions that aim to increase consumer awareness and to prevent such risks. Now today, I hope that this event will spark more conversations around what kind of innovative solutions, policies, and evidence are needed in the Philippines to further support agent network development. And I look forward to working with you to test new ideas, generate evidence, and to scale up evidence-based solutions. I hope that everyone will enjoy this webinar. And now I would like to hand over the floor to our keynote speaker. Oh, and Isha.
So much, Yuna. So yeah, before we proceed with our keynote speaker, we're really excited to hear more from our keynote speaker. I like what you mentioned that this is like being a platform to bring together researchers, service providers, and policymakers to really foster partnerships and generating evidence on agent network operations. I think this is a really good time to talk about how we can really enhance and help improve financial inclusion in the country. And we do hope that through this webinar, we will be able to facilitate those partnerships and able to spark or ignite interest in collaboration. So great. So in this next part, I am very pleased to introduce to you our keynote speaker who will delve deeper into the importance of agent network development and highlight the potential of advancing agency banking by generating rigorous evidence through research. Sharing her keynote speech is Attorney Charina B. De Vera Yap, the Managing Director of the Financial Inclusion and Consumer Empowerment Subsector, Regional Operations and Advocacy Sector of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Attorney De Vera Yap oversees the financial inclusion, consumer protection, and market conduct and integrated economic and financial initiatives of the BSP. Previously, she was the Director of the Consumer Protection and Market Conduct Office, which handles the BSP's consumer protection and market conduct work and programs. She started working in the BSP in 2000 as a legal and technical staff of BSP's executive offices, particularly in the supervision and examination sector. Everyone, please welcome Attorney Charina B. De Vera Yap. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Isha. Hi, Yuna. To the Innovations for Poverty Action, Institute of Statistical, Social, and Economic Research, and the Retail Finance Distribution Research Initiative, colleagues from the government and the private sector, honored guests, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant afternoon, evening, or morning to all. Thank you for inviting the BSP to share our views on the importance of the agent network for financial inclusion. Agent networks form an important part of the BSP strategy to enhance financial inclusion in the country and expand the financial ecosystem by extending the reach of financial services to remote areas of the Philippines. With their localized presence, agents facilitate last-mile access by mitigating distance barriers as reason for exclusion. By reducing travel for formal banking, the agent network enables convenient access to basic financial transactions and promotes the adoption of digital financial services. Given its strategic importance, the development of the agent network is identified as a priority initiative under the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion 2022 to 2028. Agents are third-party entities contracted by BSP-supervised financial institutions, or what we call BSFIs, to serve as low-cost touchpoints for their clients to conduct basic financial transactions, including account cash-in and cash-out. Supporting the expansion of the agent network are various BSP regulations, which you can see in this current slide. These regulations allowed banks, e-money issuers, and remittance and transfer companies, or what we collectively refer to as principal BSFIs, to tap retail outlets such as small shops, convenience stores, supermarkets, pharmacies, and pawn shops, among others, as agents in the delivery of basic financial services. Through this network, financial institutions are able to serve a wider consumer base, including those residing in areas where there is relatively low commercial incentive to establish a physical office. On the other hand, for the transacting public, agents provide convenient, accessible, and less intimidating access points to conduct basic financial transactions. These efficiencies have made serving the unbanked more viable and sustainable. Let me share with you my experience when we were first drafting Circular Number 940, which is the BSP regulation on cash agents, way back in 2016. So during that time, I was then a legal staff, as mentioned earlier by Isha, and I was wearing my legal hat when we were drafting the circular. My view then was very rigid, very legalistic, and I was sticking to the conservative legal view that only banks can perform specific banking services. But our late Deputy Governor, Nestor Espinilla Jr., who later on became our governor, encouraged me to think out of the box and be innovative and try to reframe our view and use the legal framework to push forward BSP's financial inclusion initiatives. Hence, we reassessed our position and Circular 940 was issued in 2017. And so here we are, making great strides in bringing financial services closer to the Filipino people. As of end 2022, there were 22 banks, 11 non-bank institutions, and 16 remittance and transfer companies that offer their products and services through over 418,000 access points. This is a significant increase from roughly 41,000 agents in 2018. We also recognize the important role of agent networks as catalyst of financial inclusion. For this reason, the BSP, with the support of the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, has developed the Agent Registry System, or the ARS. The ARS is a RegTech tool to effectively monitor the agent network in support of financial supervision, consumer protection, and financial inclusion objectives of the BSP. As a RegTech solution, the ARS will provide the BSP with an efficient tool for effective analysis of agent data on aggregate and individualized basis, including the depth and reach of each agent service. It will also facilitate the streamlined submission of data on agents and their service points by BSFIs. This will allow the generation of relevant information to build a directory in the BSP website, which the public can use to search for and locate the nearest service points. Details and next steps on the ARS as well as the agent network will further be discussed by my colleague during the panel discussion. So in closing, let me reaffirm BSP's commitment to promote financial inclusion with the goal of providing every Filipino with effective and convenient access to a wide range of financial services. I have high hopes that with the diverse panel in this webinar, we can start the conversation on how to further harness innovation, particularly the agent network, for last mile financial inclusion. To our honored guests and esteemed panelists, thank you for sharing your time with us today, and I look forward to the expertise and views that you will be generously sharing with all of us. Thank you, everyone, and I trust that the discussion will be interesting and worthwhile. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Attorney Chat. That was a really inspiring message, and thank you for sharing the story of how agent banking has grown over the years in this country, and how the BSP has really led these initiatives to come to where we are right now. So hopefully po, with Attorney Chat's message, this could inspire some ideas on what we can do together towards narrowing that financial inclusion gap and driving impactful agent network operations in the Philippines. Muli, maraming salamat po, Attorney Chat.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So at this point, I know there might be members from the audience that might have questions. So please feel free to send in your questions using the Q&A function in Zoom. We will have time for our Q&A session later after the panel discussion. And yes, we will be answering your questions later. Thank you. Okay, and now to learn more about the Refindi Research Initiative that will support evidence generation in this space, I am pleased to introduce to you Professor Peter Quarty, the Executive Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social, and Economic Research, and the Director of the Retail Finance Distribution Research Initiative. Prof. Quarty was an economist of the Bank of Ghana and served as the head of economics department at the University of Ghana. His research work has focused on financial institutions, private sector development, and economic and financial reforms. As a principal research economist, he has also supported private sector operations as a member of the Additionality and Development Outcomes Assessment Team. He holds a PhD in development economics from the University of Manchester. Professor Quarty, a pleasant good morning to you on that side of your world. Thank you so much for being here with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you. Good afternoon to those in the Philippines. I'm glad to be part of this interesting discussion, and I'm quite enjoying the session so far, especially the last presentation, the keynote speech on agent registry is quite interesting, and how far they have come. So thank you very much. Can we have the slides, please? Yeah, so the our retail finance distribution network is funded by the Gates Foundation, and is hosted under the Institute of Statistical, Social, and Economic Research. ISSER is a semi-autonomous research institution that was established in 1961 under the College of Humanities, University of Ghana. I will give you a few points about ISSER and then deep dive into the retail finance distribution network. If I could have the next slide here. So ISSER has 27 faculty. We have 4 adjunct professors. We have over 20 research projects. We produce books, policy briefs, and many other forms of dissemination. We also have support staff, contract staff, and we run training programs. We have 18 master students every year. Currently, we have 37 PhD students at various levels. In addition, we run short courses in monitoring evaluation, research methodology, project cycle management, and we get over 84 participants on average. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so I've mentioned about the policy briefs. We have online seminars. We also raise money. We are funded mainly from grants and projects and consultancy. Currently have 55 projects, and our annual grant income is between $3.5–4 million each year. Next. So our initiative is to improve last mile access to quality of agent services in low and middle income countries. So we're not just focused in Africa, but low and middle income countries. Last week we were in India to engage as well. So it tells you we are not just focused in Africa. We have funded 17 institutions to undertake research and provide commercial solutions. which aims to improve financial inclusion among especially the vulnerable and the excluded. What does Refine aim to achieve by doing all of this, by giving the grants? We'll see that on the next slide. We aim to deepen financial inclusion among the vulnerable, excluded women, poor people, household, SMEs, and other retail businesses. So to demonstrate how we effectively expand the reach of agent network through public policy and commercial solutions, we also undertake evidence-based advocacy on the structural constraints that limit the agent network globally. Next. We have an operational structure to ensure that we are fair, and just to everybody that applies to our grant. So we have a management committee, we have a policy committee, we also have a scientific committee that looks at the proposals and reviews them before it comes to the management committee uh, to review. Then we have our staff members as well. So we basically try to drive cutting-edge research through sub-grants or sub-awards that catalyzes collaborations, that would also ensure experiment with practical solutions, that supports high-impact research projects, and then support the dissemination of research insights. Refine research focus are on the supply side interventions, broader market level implications, impacts, effects, impact of the supply side on interventions on market players, including consumers, households, small and medium enterprises. Commercial and policy and academic relevance is key to us. We also want to understand the impact of competition on markets. And then to accomplish this, we are looking for strong partnership between academia, researchers, policymakers, commercial providers to conceive and implement mutually relevant research questions. And then emphasize this, we want collaborations as much as possible. Next. So our focus on agent banking also covers the organizational structure of digital finance services within the retail sector, vendor incentives and behavior, constraint to expansion, impact of policy intervention, relevant regulations and institutions, and more especially, women's access to digital financial services. We have a framework paper on our website, so you could look at that and get more details on what I'm talking about. Next slide. So the focus of this webinar, I believe we want to engage you, want you to know who we are, what we do. I want academia and commercial players to conduct research that will improve agent service provision at the last mile. Next. We have finished RFPs. This is the third RFP that is open. The RFP is open to institutions, not individuals. So if you're an individual, you work through an institution so that we can identify you in research that will benefit the outcomes on agent network. So research institutions, agent network, commercial providers, industry, associations, policymakers, development organizations, we want all of you to come together, put up a proposal, and then we are happy to fund a very good proposal. The project must be based in low and middle income countries, and I have to emphasize, it must be based in low and middle income countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, and South Asia. We opened the call was opened on March 25th and it will end on May 17th, 2024. To apply, go to the Refine website. Application is open. You can also see the QR code. You can open, and you are sure we're happy to serve you. Next. So these are the types of grants or categories of grants we provide. We provide proposal development grants. That is, if you need time to cover or develop a proposal, a pilot proposal, we give you $5,000 when you are successful. Then pilot projects to conduct 3 to 12 months pilot studies, can give you $40,000 to $60,000. For natural experiments, undertake quasi experimental research such as utilizing variations from a regulatory change. For instance, we give you $40,000 to $60,000. Then for extensions, that to undertake components of an ongoing experiment. Maybe you have a baseline or midline, you want to have an inline data collection, we can give you between 100 to 125,000. Then the large one is the greenfield evaluations, where we conduct rigorous impact evaluations working with treatment control groups. That is where we apply RCTs, and that can take from 3 to 4 years. That will give you $250,000 to $450,000, depending on what you plan to do. Next slide. So for commercial providers, we also cover innovations, interventions, evidence to undertake research to inform the design, rollout of a service or product. We want to test innovations on a pilot or experimental basis. If you want to purchase equipment like a CCTV camera or any equipment that will help you test an innovation that will facilitate a rollout of agent network to the last mile, we'll give you grants. We also facilitate partnerships between service providers and agent networks, and we can also take specialized training to build capacity. Next. So for the previous RFP, was issued on February 2023. We received 84 applications. We shortlisted 17 for external review. 9 were submitted for scientific review, and a total of 9 projects were approved and funded. Next. So these are the geographical distribution. You can see we have more from Ghana, 8 from Nigeria, and other African countries, and Asia, we have 4. So it tells you that it's more dense in Africa than you find in Asia. That's why we're doing a lot more of this outreach to crowd in proposals, good proposals, projects from Asia. Next. To location of projects, you find projects are located in Africa and Asia. As I mentioned, we are focused in low and middle income countries. So you don't want a project to be located in the US or UK. That is not the focus. It has to be located in low and middle income countries. Next. And again, by distribution of researchers, you find how the researchers are distributed. Density of research location, as I mentioned, and that's in a table form. You find Sub-Saharan Africa, location of projects, Sub-Saharan Africa, 13, Asia 3, Southeast Asia, South Asia 3, Southeast Asia 1, making it 4, as I mentioned. Then the institutions involved are in Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia 2, Europe 7, USA 16, Australia 1. So these are where the institutions or the PI are located, but the research is being conducted in Southeast Asia, South Asia, or Sub-Saharan Africa, as you find on the left panel. Next. Again, these are the country-specific locations of the various projects. You find India, you find Sierra Leone, you find Ghana, Indonesia, etc. Next. And then by gender, you can see we have male, 65% males, and then 35% female. So we are very keen, very much interested in gender inclusion to ensure that we strike a gender balance. Next. Okay, so on that note, I wish to thank all of you. I encourage all of you, those interested in research, to apply, and we are happy to engage further. If you have any questions, put it on the chat box, and we are happy to respond. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and thanks to all of you for listening. And thanks to the ISSER team and the organizers of IPA for this wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Corti, for that, for providing a comprehensive background about the research grant, the focus of the initiative, and some examples of what types of projects your institution has supported so far. So yeah, hopefully after this webinar, we'll be able to foster that collaborations and partnerships to do more work, more research work in the space of agent network operations. Great. So right now, I think, yeah, I'm sure the audience might have some questions already. So again, please use the Q&A function in Zoom, and we'll have time during the Q&A session to answer your questions. So just going back quickly to Prof. Corti's presentations, interesting to see the statistics of the project that they've supported so far. And I see none yet from the Philippines. So hopefully in this next session, or after this webinar, we could change that. Yeah, we're pleased to have a great set of panelists to get more insights on the current policies or innovations transforming agent network operations, the challenges in extending service to the last mile, and ways to integrate research and evidence to address these challenges moving forward. So to introduce the panelists and to moderate the discussion, we're pleased to have with us today Dr. Carl Handok, the Associate Professor and Department Chair of the University of the Philippines School of Economics. Sir Carl, may they get away.
Yes, thank you, Isha. This was a wonderful discussion. If you're like me, your appetite was whetted on what does agent network in banking signify for the further development of the financial industry in the Philippines, and the international experience so far, as discussed by our speakers. So in this panel discussion, we will be focusing on the innovations of agent networks, particularly those that help at last mile connections. Our panel is diverse. We have representatives from the government, we have representatives from a bank and financial institution, and we have a representative from the academe. Now, this diverse set of panel will provide us sort of various perspectives on agent network development. And we will focus on what are the innovations, the best practices, the challenges, the regulatory or governance issues that will facilitate the development or hinder the development of agent networks. And so we hope in this panel that we will spark discussions that will be helpful for academics, policymakers, financial providers, and even researchers, and also those who are just interested in developments in the financial market. And we have three very distinguished speakers. Let me introduce them in turn. Each of them will be presenting 10 minutes to open up our panel discussion. Our first speaker is Ms. Christine Orlina. She's a Bank Officer 5 of the BSP, and she has over 14 years of experience in policy development and research in the fields of supervisory policy, financial stability, financial inclusion at the BSP or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. She is currently the lead staff of the Digital Financial Services Workstream of the Policy Development Group of the Financial Inclusion Office of the BSP. Her key responsibilities include the conduct of research on policy interventions to facilitate further access to digital finance of vulnerable sectors. So whenever you're ready, Ms. Orlina, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Carl, and good afternoon, everyone. So on behalf of the Financial Inclusion Office of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, thank you for this opportunity to share with you the state of financial inclusion in the Philippines and the strategic importance of the agent network for financial inclusion. So as introduced by our managing director in her keynote speech, the agent network has a pivotal role in bringing the benefits of financial services closer to the Filipino people, especially those living in far-flung areas. Let's start with the slides, please. So digitalization has revolutionized the delivery of financial services, so they may be accessible for all, consistent with the goal of financial inclusion. So a basic indicator of financial inclusion is ownership of an account held in formal institutions. This includes banks, e-money issuers, non-stock savings and loans, cooperatives, microfinance institutions. Based on our 2021 Financial Inclusion Survey, 6 in 10 Filipinos have a transaction account that they can use to save money, transfer funds, and send or receive payments and remittances. This latest account ownership rate was remarkably higher than the 2020 22% observed in 2015. Now, since the FIS or the Financial Inclusion Survey is conducted every 2 years, we have at the interim included financial inclusion rider questions in the more frequent BSP Consumer Expectation Survey. Now, the CES is a quarterly survey of Filipino households. And based on the Q3 2023 results, the percentage of households with a transaction account is currently at 71% already. So in both the FIS and the latest CES, e-money was the driver of the increase in the account ownership, reflecting greater customer acceptance of digital financial services. This development may be attributed to technological advancements in e-commerce, ease of access in opening and maintaining an e-money account, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the convenience provided by e-money platforms. Now, in terms of financial access points, if you look at the right side of the slide, the 2021 FIS results showed that 93% of Filipino adults were aware of at least one financial access point. Filipino adults are most aware of agents, followed by banks, ATMs, and pawn shops. Among those who were aware of financial access points, many adults indicated that agents are the most accessible touch points. So all this reflect tangible gains as fruits of our commitment to develop the digital finance ecosystem as an interconnected policy objective with expanding financial inclusion in the Philippines. Next slide, please. So one way to build the digital finance ecosystem is through expanding ownership, account ownership, and usage. And toward this end, the BSP has deliberately sought to make transaction account easy to open, easy to transact, and more practical. So we have introduced regulations to expand the agent network. So these are low-cost access points where people can open and conduct financial transactions using their accounts. So in 2017, we allowed banks to contract third-party entities where clients can make simple banking transactions. E-money agents are also embedded when we introduced our e-money regulations as early as 2009. Meanwhile, remittance and transfer companies were also allowed to accredit their own remittance sub-agents, which are considered part of their service network. Second, we also democratized ownership of transaction accounts through our BDA, or the Basic Deposit Account, and e-money frameworks. So essentially, these are low-cost, no-frills, and easy-to-open account designed for the needs of the unbanked and low-income markets. With simplified onboarding requirements, every Filipino can open an account through their nearest bank, agent, or even a mobile app. Lastly, we also established an efficient retail payment system that can facilitate interoperable, real-time, and affordable account-to-account payments. So the BSP launched the NRPS, or the National Retail Payment System, which led to what we now call InstaPay and PesoNet. So these are fund transfer schemes that allow convenient account-to-account fund transfers, which proved to be a lifesaver during the pandemic. So all these initiatives have expanded the digital finance ecosystem, allowing more practical uses for an account. So from just a tool for saving, an account has become a tool for convenient payment transactions that any Filipino can benefit from. Next slide, please. So now we move to agent network. So agent network is strategically important in expanding financial inclusion in the Philippines. As mentioned by Attorney Cha earlier, the network is comprised of cash agents, e-money agents, and remittance sub-agents, as well as their service points, or the physical touch points for agent services are provided. These are typically your convenience stores or sari-sari stores, as we call it here, pharmacies, pawn shops, and other retail outlets that serve as non-intimidating service points for financial clients. Now, through the agent network, financial institutions are able to serve a wider consumer base, including those residing in areas where there is relatively low commercial incentive to establish a physical office. These efficiencies made serving the unbanked more viable and sustainable. For financial consumers, the agent's localized presence enables convenient service access, reduce travel for formal banking, and promotes digital payment adoption by onboarding individuals onto digital platforms and guiding them in using mobile money and assisting in their cash in and cash out transactions. The benefits also extend to the agent themselves, as becoming an agent provides economic opportunities for vulnerable segments of society. Agents can enhance their livelihood by earning transaction commissions from providing financial services on behalf of their principal financial institutions. The agent network also plays an important role in promoting digital finance. Now, agents are typically equipped with digital devices like a POS, a mobile POS, or a QR scanners connected to a financial institution server. So with these digital solutions, financial consumers can perform financial transactions via the agent network. Next slide, please. Now we move to the agent registry system. So given the strategic significance of agents in promoting inclusive digital finance, the BSP, with the technical support from our partners in the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, developed the Agent Registry System, or the ARS. So the ARS is a RegTech, or a regulatory technology solution, that aims to enhance data management, monitoring, and reporting system, thereby facilitating more efficient operations and analysis of the agent network. An inherent challenge in the distributed presence of agents across our archipelago is visibility. For instance, the geographic penetration of agents. Seeing the locational distribution of each touchpoints would allow us to identify areas where there are concentration and where there are gaps or exclusions. And this is a valuable insights for policy initiatives to reduce disparities in financial inclusion. Having a better understanding of the agent network would also require identifying agents with active contracts or acting on behalf of multiple financial institutions. So we take the view that having a shared agent network can increase the ubiquity and affordability of agent services. Another challenge is in the aspect of consumer protection. So we wanted to ensure that consumers are transacting with legitimate agents of principal financial institutions. Currently, no publicly accessible registry provides information about nearby accredited agents and their services. Now, with the ARS, the submission of agent data by the different types of principal financial institutions will be streamlined and standardized. So our BSP supervised financial institutions will submit their data on agents and service points through a web portal using a unified report template. Now, as a RegTech solution, the ARS would reduce the manual handling and processing of agent data and thereby improving the quality of data. So with this improved data quality, the ARS will provide the BSP with timely access to and tool for effective analysis of agent data on an aggregate or system-wide basis and individualized basis. So as a single repository of data for all types of agents, the cash, e-money, and remittance, the ARS can also identify unique and shared agents, the financial institutions they are affiliated with, and their permissible services. The ARS will also provide visibility on the depth and reach of agent services, as well as their penetration at the barangay level. So the uniform reporting requirement will include locational data that would enable both policymakers and BSP supervised financial institutions to see where there are gaps in financial access across the country. Lastly, the ARS will also generate a searchable agent directory that will empower the public by helping them identify and locate accredited agents of principal BSFIs and determine the authorized services that they can avail of from these touchpoints. Now, to implement this, the BSP will be issuing a circular this year that mandates principal BSP supervised financial institutions with active agent contracts to submit the standardized agent registry report through the ARS. Okay, so we're expecting that ARS will be live by 2025. Next slide, please. So the promotion of agent network development is anchored on the NSFI 2022 to 2028, where inclusive digital finance is institutionalized as a strategic objective. The strategy aims to empower every Filipino to have better access to financial services and achieve improvement of financial health and resilience as a key desired outcome. As a priority initiative under inclusive digital finance, the promotion of shared agent network is seen to encourage more agents to enter the network by enabling incumbent agents to generate attractive revenues and make a viable business case. In doing so, financial consumers will benefit from having convenient access to affordable financial services. Now, to close, data is a key enabler and central in strengthening our policy initiatives on agent network development. With the ARS, we intend to better understand and monitor the network through digital solutions. So the valuable insights that can be generated can help identify gaps and guide our efforts to promote financial inclusion across the country. And with that, thank you for your kind attention and maraming salamat for supporting financial inclusion.
Thank you so much, Ms. Orlina. That was very informative, especially on the regulatory framework and also recent developments in this financial space. Later, we will be opening up the floor to questions, but I'm sure that with this presentation, you all have questions in mind. But we go to our second speaker. So we have a perspective from the government. Now we'll go to a perspective from the banking sector. So our next speaker is Ms. Lovely Grace Dayo. She's the first Vice President for Digital Solutions and Product Management Group of Land Bank. And she has been with Land Bank for the past 25 years. And she started as a mainframe programmer during the Y2K rush. Wow, that was a while ago. Through the years, she has managed different critical core banking systems of Land Bank and different application development teams. She was a member of the 2022 Presidential Lingkod Bayan Group awardee, and she has recently moved from the IT group to the business side of products and channels development and applications management. Her group provides digital solutions, requirements, product design, and end-to-end operation support for all the digital products of Land Bank. And it's my pleasure to welcome Ms. Lovely Grace Tayo. And whenever you're ready, ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting Land Bank. Also, warm greetings from Manila for all those our attendees outside of the Philippines. On behalf of Digital Banking Sector Head, Executive Vice President Laila Martin, it is my pleasure to share with you today now how Land Bank of the Philippines is leveraging productive partnerships, among other efforts, to advance financial inclusion all over the country, especially in areas where financial services are needed the most. For those who may not be familiar with Land Bank is the largest financial institution in the Philippines. And as a development-oriented institution, we are the biggest credit provider to the local agriculture sector, while we also support the growth requirements of other key movers of the economy, and we also extend support to the vulnerable sectors of the Philippine society. Land Bank is proud to be the most geographically accessible bank in the Philippines, We are serving all 82 provinces through our extensive network of touchpoints. We actually have a penetration rate of 88% of the cities and municipalities nationwide. We remain aggressive in expanding our extensive network to serve more clients and meet emerging needs. While our digital banking channels are continuously rising, still our physical touchpoints remain equivalently important in servicing our clients, especially those in the countryside. So our commitment to financial inclusion drives us to reach and serve every Filipino. Despite high technology adoption in the Philippines, access to financial services remains uneven, leaving behind the very people who need them the most, those in the unbanked and underserved communities, including those residing in what we call geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, or GIDAs. Now, Land Bank is dedicated to bridging this gap. But we are not doing it alone. We have been building mutually beneficial connections, and we are exploring opportunities for partnership under our Land Bank Kasama program. Land Bank Kasama, where Kasama means partner, is our agent banking program where we tap local players to deliver banking services to remote communities nationwide. The program, as mentioned earlier, is in accordance with the Financial Inclusion Trust of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which allows us to contract cash agents who will perform selected banking services on behalf of the bank. This we target to exponentially expand our reach and service more clients, especially in those hard-to-reach places where financial access to financial services still remains a challenge. Land Bank Kasama is straightforward. We accredit partners who can offer services like fund transfer, opening and issuing transaction accounts, balance inquiry, POS cash out, cash in, and these are done directly within those communities. We partner with client co-ops, associations, rural banks, LGUs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, and we also partner with private entities to help provide these basic banking services, especially on those areas where there is limited or no land bank present. Through the program, we are able to make financial services more accessible to Filipinos. And we provide convenience and limit the travel costs for clients to conduct their financial transactions. But more than just convenience, we also alleviate the financial burden of clients and empower them to take better control in managing their finances. We have a short video prepared for you so you can better appreciate our Land Bank Kasama. Let's play that, please.
Hindi na kailangang gumugol ng maraming oras o bumiyahe ng malayo dahil mas pinalapit na ang Land Bank sa iyo. Saang sulok ka man ng bansa, may kaagapay ka ang Land Bank Kasama. Sa Land Bank Kasama, ang mga kooperatiba, asosasyon, at mga maliit na negosyo ay tumatayo bilang accredited partners ng Land Bank na tumutulong maghatid ng iba't ibang serbisyong pampinansyal. Sa Land Bank Kasama, pwedeng gumawa ng iba't ibang financial transactions tulad ng mag-cash out o withdraw gamit ang POS terminal, mag-cash in o magdeposito sa iyong Land Bank prepaid card, cash card o Land Bank ATM card account. Magbayad ng bills para sa kuryente, tubig, cable at iba pa gamit ang LinkBiz portal at magpadala ng pera o fund transfer mula sa Land Bank prepaid card papunta sa ibang Land Bank prepaid card. Maaari mo ring alamin ang iyong balanse Mas pinadali na rin ang payout para sa CCT at 4Ps beneficiaries. Sa Land Bank Kasama, pwedeng makuha ang payout nang hindi na kinakailangan pang bumisita sa bangko o gumamit ng ATM. Higit 1,000 Land Bank Kasama ang nasa buong kapuluan. Matipid, mabilis, at sigurado. Ito ang Land Bank Kasama mo. Pumunta sa pinakamalapit na Land Bank Kasama at i-enjoy ang mas pinadaling pagbabangko. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, bumisita sa official website at social media channels ng Land Bank.
Thank you. So, through our Land Bank Kasama, we are proud
Di na
to
kailangan
bring banking
Gumugol
services closer to every Filipino. The continued expansion of the program is actually reflective of the bank's steadfast commitment to advance financial inclusion in the country. Our partnerships have translated to significantly improved access to financial services and lower transaction costs. This is to the benefit of our customers in unbanked and underserved communities. As of March 2024, we have certified 1,090 Land Bank Kasama partners with 1,844 terminals operating in 82 provinces and 860 municipalities. Since its soft launch in 2019, Land Bank Kasama program has facilitated more than 3.6 million transactions worth over $286 million. Clearly, the substantial volume that transactions through our partners is proof that local economies can thrive and flourish even faster if financial channels are accessible. Aside from the noble intentions of the program, we see our partnerships as mutually beneficial. Land Bank Kasama provides our partners with, in a business perspective, additional income and also driving more foot traffic in their premises, which eventually could lead to acquiring new clients. At the same time, they are contributing to a much bigger cause. The benefits of Land Bank Kasama in unbanked and underserved communities are far-reaching, especially for the beneficiaries who are provided with cost-effective, efficient, accessible, and secure banking service. We have been aggressively promoting our Land Bank Kasama touchpoints since the start of the year. We want to service more clients. And we are currently rolling out our Bilis Ipon Digital Financial Inclusion Caravan nationwide. This is to actively increase awareness of our digital products and solutions and to promote the wider use and access to our financial services. The Caravan aims to promote better fund management practices through proper financial education, innovative banking services, and improve financial access. We want to help bank those who are unbanked and help them get started on their financial journeys as we promote the habit of saving among Filipinos. Actually, there are over 800 farmers, fishers, conditional cash transfers, beneficiaries, and local partners have already participated in our caravans, and they were included in the insightful discussions and demonstrations on how they can boost their savings and livelihood. Actually, in one of our recent caravans in Plaridel, Misamis Occidental, we met farmer Lolita Palangpangan, and she shared how Land Bank Kasama has been helping her save money for her family's expenses. Instead of going to a physical land bank branch, which is 2 towns away, Lolita is now accessing banking services through a nearby Kasama partner. And this saves her 70 pesos or around 1.50 US dollars. And that's for the transportation cost alone. These newfound savings directly benefit her family and providing additional resources for their other necessities. So Lolita's story is just one of the many. And thanks to Land Bank kasama, countless Filipinos across the country are experiencing the same similar transformations. Now, let me invite all our stakeholders to join in this meaningful mission of bringing everyone into the fold of financial inclusion. By working together, we can ensure a future where every Filipino, regardless of location, background, has the financial tools and resources they need to grow and to thrive. Let us all work towards harnessing the limitless possibilities of collaboration to continue uplifting lives, empowering communities, and serving the nation. This is all towards building an inclusive and sustainable economy. Do let us know if there are other areas that we can partner or we can explore. Land Bank is just around. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dayo. Well, Land Bank is ubiquitous. Just driving around the Philippines, you will be sure to find one Land Bank branch. Yeah. In fact, Land Bank is where I think their motto is to boldly go where no other bank has gone before. So Land Bank is in a unique position. So thank you so much for your presentation. And let's discuss issues further. But now, for now, we'll go to our third speaker. He's an academe, an associate professor of University of Sydney, Dr. Russell Toff. He is an associate professor in the School of Economics at the University of Sydney. He's a development microeconomist with main research interest in the development of the private sector, particularly development finance, and occasional overlap with agricultural, behavioral, and environmental economics. His research often involves primary data collection and field experiments, with ongoing work in Fiji, Pakistan, Philippines, Tanzania, and Vietnam. He holds a PhD in economics from Cornell University. Dr. Toff, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. And thanks to the organizers for inviting me to enjoy this very interesting discussion today. So I just want to share some ideas with you kind of from an economist perspective and thinking about the challenges of getting access to finance in rural and remote areas and to the last mile. So why is that challenge? Why is that challenging? What are the economics of agent network development? And then I'll talk a bit about how we can think about doing research in that space. So the world is digitizing in terms of communication, in terms of finance, and equitable and widespread access to digital financial services is increasingly important as governments and the private sector increasingly rely on this infrastructure to distribute cash transfers, collect payments, offer digital financial services, et cetera. So, in Australia, there's been some uproar as some bank branches have stopped offering cash withdrawals, for example. So as we start, as some service providers stop offering certain payment channels, cash, checks, et cetera, we want to make sure everyone has access to these new digital channels. So that's really what we're talking about. And why is that challenging in rural and remote areas? One is structural friction. So mobile network connectivity, electricity access, just the challenges of distance, travel cost, the kind of the logistics of transporting and moving cash is one challenge. Security also plays into that in some areas. And then once we go past those public goods, we can think about how the market works. Markets might be thin in those areas. So there's less consumers, less money in the system, maybe less potential volume-based revenue for agents. So it might be harder to draw agents into the system, and it might be harder to find prospective agents who have the liquidity to provide agency services. And then there's kind of chicken and egg problems in the development of the market. So, remote rural areas maybe are less likely to have strong prospective agents. Hence, people there are maybe less likely to switch to digital financial services, develop financial literacy. And so it's a two-sided coordination problem between the agents and the consumers, and how do you get them both to kind of flip into using those services. So here's some ideas on what might work. Definitely we need a lot more evidence on this. So there's lots and lots of opportunities to do new research. So on structural frictions, we can think about investing in public goods to reduce those structural frictions. A lot of these are large-scale investments, electricity access, network access, security, better transport routes to move cash around. Whether that's done, by a government entity or through incentives or subsidies for private providers to do so. In terms of, the thin market issue, there's some interesting economics there. There's this question of whether agents are exclusive or non-exclusive to a given provider. On the one hand, we want to maybe not have exclusivity, let one agent in one, say, remote village offer services from multiple providers. But if you do that, the providers might not invest as much in that agent, because that agent, they're maybe doing 20% of their business with one provider, 30% for another. So the local regional manager might not invest as much in the agent's development. So having a local monopoly could be more attractive to providers. So there's kind of an economic trade-off there. Another trade-off is in pricing. Lower transaction fees for payments can draw in consumers. However, this might mean lower revenue for providers. So will they invest in these thinner markets if the revenue is lower? So how do you balance out that, yet another economic trade-off? Maybe starting with subsidies to draw in the consumer base, and then gradually increase increase fees as people see more value from the local network effects. We also want to make things easier for agents, and I've pulled all of these ideas from the wonderful refined white paper. So you can check that out on their website. But lowering entry costs for agents, maybe different agent tiers, helping to smooth transaction volatility in remote areas. If an area is really dependent on agricultural fisheries, then agents might not have a steady stream of revenue throughout the year. So helping them smooth that. Developing new business models in those areas, targeted recruitment, for example, of female agents. And then we can also think about creative ways to provide liquidity to agents. I actually have a paper on this, on a kind of cool collaboration between a bank and a mobile money company, where they provided collateral-free loans to mobile money agents that was purely assessed based on past mobile money volumes. So credit scoring was purely on past mobile money volumes. It was just cash-based lending, no collateral. And this was a really successful product that brought a lot of liquidity to agents across the country that I was studying. And then there's these kind of chicken and egg problems of getting, agents to get in the game and offer these services reliably, and getting consumers to transact. There's kind of this adoption speed bump, and there's a coordination challenge in terms of habit formation norms. Are you used to managing money in cash or digital? How do we kind of get that two-sided coordination to happen? So a lot of fascinating economics there. I'm doing some existing work here with IPA in the Philippines on the issue of interoperability. And of course, Philippines has, a couple of great payment systems with InstaPay and PesoNet. So there's a question of whether interoperability will help or hurt access to financial services in rural and remote areas. And I just want to flag this interesting paper. This is very much an emerging area. This paper suggests that the spread of interoperability, the staggered spread of interoperability across countries in Africa, led to reduced fees for mobile payments. However, the authors also find that it leads to decreased mobile towers and network coverage, less of that infrastructure, and that leads to lower financial inclusion. So kind of an interesting finding from a broad scan across a few dozen countries in Africa, but certainly an interesting thing to think about when we think about mechanisms and different policies. So how can we do research on these issues? One thing is it would be great to have more descriptive evidence. We don't have a lot of agent level data. A lot of our surveys of financial inclusion target consumers, and we get their perceptions of access to agents, but it would be great to have more agent level surveys. As I was thinking about this, I thought it would be great to have a public registry of agents to facilitate an agent level sampling frame. And so I'm very excited to hear about the initiative by the BSP to create just such a sampling frame. And so I have a lot of questions as a researcher about what information would be available in there, what information would be available for research to study the agent network here in the Philippines. It would be great to measure the supply side, the number and depth of providers, and also the demand side. What are consumers doing and getting in the vicinity of agents? Because we're talking about kind of research that would have a broad geographic scale, we can think about lower cost methods like phone surveys to balance off the cost of remoteness. But of course, there's trade-offs in the response rate. And then we want to test what works. On the previous slide, I talked about a bunch of things that might work to improve agent network access in remote and rural areas. I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities to partner with providers to test specific policies and interventions to enhance agent networks. This, can be a potential win-win to providers. Honestly, for their bottom line, a lot of these rural and remote areas are less of interest than some of the urban areas. So it seems like a really fertile ground where they might be more willing to partner with researchers to develop knowledge on what works. And that question of what works may actually be a key constraint here. And we can think about randomized evaluations and field experiments where possible. I think it's, again, a promising area for RCTs, given that there'll be many underserved locations by different providers to just randomize to expand the network. And I think there's also exciting questions about the industrial organization, the IO of agent networks, competition, agent network density and overlap, entry, exit, et cetera. So finally, thinking about policy and giving policy advice, the things that come to mind for me are the enabling environment. A lot of these things are public goods, the regulatory framework, enabling infrastructure, network coverage, electricity, cash transport, security, all of that. A lot of that is big public goods that maybe the government or maybe, private providers or consortium can invest in. Another question is, are there market failures? Are there places to intervene? What are those failures? We don't want to, over intervene in markets, if let markets operate on their own, but maybe there are market failures to overcome. And we can also think about equity and efficiency trade-offs. So there's many other examples for network type goods where the government might subsidize infrastructure or services in areas where it's not necessarily attractive to the private sector to provide services. So post offices, health access, schooling, telecom connectivity, broadband connectivity, et cetera. So if the government's deciding to go digital in services and social transfers, then it makes sense to push access to all citizens and to make sure the government's not just investing in going digital, but also in providing the hard infrastructure that enables that for everyone in the population, so we don't exclude people. And of course, this is a pressing issue for an archipelagic country like the Philippines. So there is this risk that as the private sector and the government go digital, they start to pull back on physical infrastructure, adopt business models. Maybe they start shutting down branches, stop offering cash services in certain locations. There is the risk that that excludes a subset of the population. So let's not digitize too fast, and let's keep equity in mind. Okay, I think I'm out of time. So thank you so much, and I look forward to the further discussion.
Thank you so much, Professor Toth. So at this point, may we invite all panelists to open their cameras. We'll begin the discussion. Also, I think Professor Cuarte is is available to answer some questions. But just to keep the ball rolling, let me start with Professor Toth because we speak the same language. I recognize, and it's very. I think it's good that you have enumerated the last mile touch points and challenges of doing that, coordinated investments. It's almost always axiomatic that digital innovation requires profitability and therefore may hamper last mile connection. So, are there things that, based on your experience looking at other countries, on how governments actually overcame all these challenges in, say, coordinated investments? Uh, Here in the Philippines, digital banks, e-wallets are also owned by telecommunications companies. So the biggest GCash is owned by Globe, which is a big cellular uh, mobile phone uh, company. And so, is this unique to the Philippines? And are there ways in other countries that they have solved these problems of coordinated investments where private sector may not come in?
That's a good question. I think from the private sector side, some of the innovations that we've seen, at least that have been researched, have involved things like mobile solutions, where we might have a mobile bank that is only in a certain location for a day of the week or something like that. So there are these kind of innovations that have been researched on the private sector side. In terms of coordinated investments, yeah, I'm less aware of that. I mean, I think there's a lot of countries that are prioritizing, mobile connectivity, expanding electrification in a lot of different ways. Yeah, so that maybe I'll stop there. And
Thanks for that. It's really a hard problem. It's what the literature calls a wicked problem. You don't know where to start. It takes a lot of thinking. But in terms of, for instance, in the Philippine settings, Miss Orlina, I know that you're pushing for all these digital technology initiatives that you have, but for most of the last mile connections, they mainly rely on, say, existing informal financial networks. How do you think you can tap that sort of in your agent registry system? For instance, I recall when I was in the province, there were like informal cash in or cash out agents where they charge a very high implicit interest rates in cashing out. So even though they charge a high implicit interest rate, they still serve a function, right? They still where there's no formal like store to cash out. But how do you sort of integrate this into your registry system, or are you thinking about tapping into these kinds of informal networks, or just you're just mainly concerned about formal entities?
Yes, so Carl. Actually, for the ARS, we're just scoping out the formal entities, those that are
Mhm.
really accredited by our principal financial institutions. But for a consumer protection point of view, that's really what we wanted to address. Because of this informal cash in and cash out touch points, they are charging exorbitant prices. That's why we wanted to raise awareness as well on the demand side for the consumer
Mhm.
base on the availability of the agent network, the formal agent network. And this is one of the value of the ARS. So by publishing a public searchable directory of service points, we are hoping that it could help as well from a consumer protection perspective.
So there's a related land bank I know driving around the Philippines, there's always a land bank, and you can leverage that in terms of presence for all these unbanked to have access to that. But of course, when you discuss the Kasama project, that involves like uh, formal uh, formal partners. But when we're talking about last mile connections, what are your programs, or what sort of agents or what sort of partnerships are you looking at to really drill down into, you said Gidas or some isolated barangays that's far from the centro. So
Actually, we're partnering with whoever is actually available already in those far-flung areas. So our requirements is just for them to be able to provide these services. There are minimum transactions that they should be able to cater to. So we're not very particular on any like we're into co-ops only. We are actually engaging even with sari-sari stores, groceries, so that we can actually go to those far-flung areas where there are no big co-ops or there's no land bank in those areas. So we're not very particular in to whom we partner as long as we provide those secure banking services.
yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if this is unique to the Philippines, but Professor Cuarte, if you have any like sort of general lessons that you have looking at this from a multi-country perspective. Obviously, your experience. You have projects in Ghana, in India, some in Southeast Asia. Do you think something like this is uh, will create a huge impact in lives of the unbanked, or what does it take to enhance that impact?
Yeah, the land bank example is quite unique. I think we have agent banking in Ghana. In India, we visited India, and I think it's common across the low and middle income countries, and it's something that is driving financial inclusion to the unbanked, because there are many people who are outside the banking system. So it is ideal. The only challenge is sometimes infrastructure, where access to electricity, access to roads, access to some of the technologies or infrastructure that would drive agent banking is limited. So I believe it's something that we should continue to drive. Let me also add quickly. I heard the last speaker speak about interoperability. It is something that is we are doing in Ghana, and it's very fascinating. It's a lesson that other countries who are not having interoperability would perhaps delve into, because it makes it easier for people to transfer funds across networks, and that really helps in driving financial inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go to questions in the chat. So I think this is a question for BSP. How do you get? How are these agents? How do you consider them as agents? Do they have to be licensed? You said it's more formal. Do they undergo training? So in order for you to be accredited as an agent?
Okay. For agents to be called accredited agents of principal financial institutions, they should have a formal contracts with our BSP supervised financial institutions. And maybe I'll also answer a related question on this one, on what is the BSP's approach with respect to enforcement of agent network systems. So we take the view that it is the responsibility of the principal financial institutions to monitor its agent operations and ensure that their agents comply with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations. So this includes for consumer protection, no, for in pursuant to the FCPA, or the Financial Products and Services Consumer Protection Act. The BSP has also issued implementing rules and regulations for BSP supervised institutions. So we have the consumer protection standards in Circular 1160. We also have guidance on handling complaints on Circular 1169. So there, the primary responsibility in monitoring and enforcing their agent operations lies on the principal financial institutions.
Just a follow up on that, Miss Orlina. So, for instance, all these sari-sari stores, before they provide like cell phone loan or something. So, suppose they want to enter this space as an agent. Okay. Will they? Is the transaction cost too high? Do you think it will be too high, or how does BSP view regulating the small agents, so to speak?
So what we regulate are the principal financial institutions. So these are the banks, EMIs, the repeated transfer companies. So we don't regulate sari-sari stores. Okay, so just to say it out there. So if they wanted to be a formal agent of, say, an EMI, so I guess they will have to reach out to partner outlets. Some EMIs have partner outlets, or these are like organized agent networks by itself, and be affiliated with it. So different EMIs, different BSIs have different business models. So they just have to reach out to the principal financial institutions if they want it to be formally recognized as part of the agent network.
Thank you so much. This is a question for Professor Cuarte. The question is that despite agents reaching 400,000 as of 2022, the survey says that half of the respondents indicated that these agents are accessible. Only half say that they are accessible. Why do you think this is the result? Even though we have many agents now, accessibility is still a problem. Is it a question of liquidity, as your white paper suggests?
Well, the issue is liquidity is one, but also the spread. You find that most agents are in the cities. If you look at the geographical distribution of agents in, let's say, Philippines, you find the majority in the Philippines, in the capital cities. So most of these in the rural areas, etc., are excluded. So, as I mentioned, the infrastructure challenge is what is limiting access. Of course, not forgetting the issue of cost and also trust. Sometimes they don't trust agents because of agent misbehavior, agent mispricing, etc. So there are several factors that's accounting for this access problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the answer. We have a question for Land Bank. Someone said that the program is impressive. I find it impressive too. But what are the main challenges in getting new clients or new partners to join this Kasama program?
Well, actually, that's why we are in full blast with our financial literacy. We are doing the caravans because the challenge is really there. We need to convince them that agent banking works, and we have to really go down to those areas and explain to them how the agent banking works. Otherwise, no one will participate, no one will partner. So we have to take that time to explain how agent banking works.
So it's really information that's
Yes,
sometimes
literacy.
financial literacy.
Yes.
Okay, great. I guess we only have time for one question. For BSP, how will ARS be advertised and communicated to the public?
Okay, so during the rollout of the system, we will first touch on get in touch with the BSFIs because they have to understand how to fill up the forms, which data do they have to get from their agents, and to build that basic understanding itself of their agent networks. So that's the first leg. And once we have it fully rolled out, that is when we can generate the searchable directory for the public consumption.
Thank you so much. Hopefully, you can link that database to other sort of administrative data. This is just a wish list. So for instance, with PhilSys, so that you can link both the agent and also the users of those agents. So you have a fuller picture of kind of like the market for this. But wishful thinking. But
yes, Carl,
but I-
actually, that's also one of my personal idea for as an area of research, because one of the value of ERS is locational data. So when we can we can already identify, should we have the data already, we can already identify which areas have gaps in financial access, and we can link it with economic data on which areas are financial centers or economic centers and match access on those areas.
Exactly. So calling PSA, BSP is willing to partner with you on that. So just for our non-Filipino partners, we have Philippine Statistics Agency collects information on the population through PhilSys. So just linking those two database would be I think beneficial for this kinds of effort. But thank you so much. I mean, the time has really flown so fast. I have so much questions, but unfortunately, we have time constraints. But I do fully recognize that this is an important question because this goes into the heart of inclusion, and this goes into the heart of development. I know there are many challenges in providing financial services to the marginalized sector, to the unbanked, to the last mile. And Professor Toth has outlined all the sort of problems like an economist would do, just all these coordinated investments, all these problems with connectivity and so forth. But hopefully we could address that in days to come. And thank you to the BSP for being cognizant of the regulatory governance frameworks that would help further develop financial inclusion in the rural areas. And Land Bank, you have a very big role because apart from Jollibee, Land Bank is the only ubiquitous business as you drive around the country. And for Professor Cuarte, I hope you will partner with us at academic institutions so that we can study and research all the problems that we have identified and hopefully find solutions to them. So thank you so much to everyone. I will yield the floor to Isha for the next part, but thank you so much, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you so much to our speakers. We really appreciate you lending a few hours of your time and sharing these important insights on the topic today. And thank you so much, Sir Carl, for doing a fantastic job in moderating the panel. I know we also have a lot of questions, so yeah, we can now proceed to the closing remarks and some additional reminders on how we can continue this conversation moving forward. So to officially close this event, I would like to call on Adeswa Odofoto, the project director of the Rifindi Research Initiative. She also doubles as the coordinator of ISSER's Office for Institutional Partnership and Grant Management. So Adeswa, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. It's been a really exciting webinar for us, and it's giving us a good morning here in Accra. I want to say a very thank you to IPA Philippines. You made this webinar possible. Actually, working with you has been very insightful and exciting. And thanks so much for bringing very relevant stakeholders to the table to talk about agent networks in the Philippines. And as we know, Philippines is one of the active countries when it comes to financial inclusion. And it's really exciting to hear from regulators, industry players, academia on how we can advance agent network at the last mile. To our participants, we want to say very thank you for giving us your Friday afternoon in the Philippines to be with us to go through this webinar. We want to encourage you to participate or to apply for the grant. As Professor Curtis said, the focus of this webinar, this outreach, is to get more grants from Asia, especially more grants from Philippines. We can't be having grants available for research in financial inclusion and have no grants funded from the Philippines, which is one of the most active countries when it comes to financial inclusion. And through Professor Russell's presentation, there were so many interesting research topics just from Professor Russell's presentation that you could leverage on to write a research grant proposal. So we are looking forward to receiving a lot of research proposals from Philippines, and we are looking forward to funding research in the Philippines. We want to encourage not just academia, but also policymakers and industry players. As Professor Curtis said, academia, please partner with the central bank. They're doing a great thing with the agent registry. It's a good opportunity to conduct a research. Land Bank is doing a lot. It's a great opportunity to partner with a commercial player to look at supply side constraints. So this webinar has really unearthed interesting topics, interesting questions that you can use for your research, and we are looking forward to receiving your applications. If you have any challenge, if you need any further clarifications on your research topic, please do not hesitate to contact us. Our principal investigators will be happy, including Professor Corte, will be happy to walk through with you to help you refine your topic or help you finalize your research proposal. So everyone here, thank you very much. We are looking for collaborations, and we hope to see collaborations between academia, the central bank, the commercial players in submitting research proposals for grants. Thank you very much, Merami, Salamat, and have a wonderful Friday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adeswa. And yeah, what a great way to end our very productive and engaging afternoon. Again, thank you so much to our speakers for providing and sharing so many insights to help us move forward and think of ways on how we can work together and generate more evidence on how to improve and strengthen agent network operations. So yeah, it concludes our webinar for today. Thank you again so much for ISSER and Rafindi for partnering with IPA on this very important topic. And to our very engaged audience this afternoon, thanks again for joining us. I know you come from also different time zones as well. So before we leave, may I invite the audience to answer this quick Google form so that to help us continue our conversations, especially to those who are interested in pursuing research on agent network development. Yeah, again, you can be from the academe, the service providers, commercial players, NGOs, and so on. We're happy to have that conversation and continue that discussion with you. Yeah, and then we will reach out to you sometime next week to discuss further. Because again, the deadline, I understand the deadline for this proposal is upcoming. But yeah, we're happy to continue our work in this space. So muli, maraming salamat at magandang hapon. Stay safe, stay hydrated this very hot weather in Manila, and have a great weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.